government also should listen to somebody like the finance minister, and he is eminently qualified to be able to advise on whether we have enough money to fund our education. These education, the problem of education is just how even with power, the problem is not start to do. Nigeria before 1999, before CDK was like a collapsed estate, and it is difficult to, you cannot build it up in one day. God bless you.
All right. Thank you. So,
Just
did you follow?
what,
it was
really
difficult to hear some of those
It's
things.
when we're talking about the case of the greatness or wealth of Nigeria, you see, you can be endowed with all the assets, natural assets that you can, but if you can't manage them, nothing will happen. That's why you will see, even in Nigeria today, you see some children, because of their prodigalized lifestyle and rascalized lifestyle, parents can leave empires, strong legacies, but it will just be a question of time. Everything would collapse. And we keep deceiving ourselves as Nigerians that we are doing well. Yes, we are a great country of great people, but we are a bad example. Why are we a bad example? Look at Nigeria, look at places like the United Arab Emirates. United Arab Emirates is literally sitting on what? On crude oil or hydrocarbon. But is that what they are known for today? They are just known for tourism. The other ones have just been left for the next generation. That's how you plan. Leaders need to think and plan generationally. In other words, we are trying to put railroads today, but the intention is that these railroads will outlive us. And if you plan and think generationally, you can never be selfish. Your intention is in 50 years' time, in 100 years' time, somebody should be able to come and work in this institution.
So you're talking of planning, and the person who seems to have been doing most of the planning that we know of, at least in the media, has been Dr. Shamsuddin Usman. He's been very vocal. He's been out there in the media, and a lot of people have seen some of the things he's done. Some people, analysts, have said credit should go to him for the KPIs that's developed for ministers in terms of their performance. And we heard him at the Nigeria Economic Summit, the 19th in Abuja last week, talking about each minister's coming to him and discussing their KPIs as part of the overall picture. Now, if we look at someone like that, with over 30 years of experience of both private and public sector, taking out of the equation for one reason or the other, who should we be looking at replacing him?
To be honest, I don't
because
know. When you look at
I don't know. I'd like to know.
You see,
Nigerians
honestly,
would like to know.
Strange enough, it seems it's only the leaders that don't really know what the problems of Nigerians are. Because every Nigerian, when you talk to Nigerians, I'm telling you, they can analyze our problems. They can tell you one by one. You see somebody riding Okada and you think he is a fool, sit with that guy and he will tell you one or two things you will do to trigger and positively catalyze the economy of Nigeria. But most of the time, we rely on our leaders, those who will roll out the policies. What can you say about petroleum industry bill? How can a sane person?
That's a conversation for another day.
But how can a sane person how can
if you
a
start
sane
with that, you're going to get me into the
I'm
mode
not
of
but you see, how can a sane person who wants to expand his business frontiers ever think of coming to a place like Nigeria? How would you say people must not divest? The real meaning of divestment in positive terms is actually you've been dealing with something and you want to go into another thing to enhance your broad-based financial or economic growth. But in the case of Nigeria, the companies are divesting because of business climate hostilities. So everything about Nigeria is the other way around. I remember one time when Reverend Matu Kuka was on this seat, probably this very seat, he said Nigeria is actually progressing backwards. You can't really explain. Some of these things are just difficult. But
So
Nigerians
who do we
can
turn
X-ray
to
them,
for our
anatomize
national
them, and
planning?
discuss them.
Bala, who do we turn to for our national planning? What kind of person should let's assume Mr. President is watching this morning.
Yes.
And he's thinking, okay, they're talking about my cabinet shake-up. I had to do it because it was necessary. Who would you be saying to him, Mr. President, you're watching, this is the kind of person you need to get?
Consider Kayode Akitemi, for instance.
To be honest, I don't know. The only thing is just like the way we talked about, you having people like the pro-chancellors and chancellors sitting down, coming with a template for that. You have some great Nigerians in different fields. You see, all they need is come with the criteria. If the criteria is this person must be this, he must have this track record, he must have this, he must have that, bring the person, regardless of coloration. Let me give you one specific example. The present chairman of Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, right, Uche. To be honest with you, when I heard about that institution or that new body that was established, you understand, I was just thinking, my brain was going round and round the kind of people that should head that place. Then when the name was finally announced, Uche Oji, the first thing I did was I wanted to go and learn about this guy's credentials. I found out that this guy read engineering, he worked in this place, he has worked in a bank in Nigeria, he went to the States and got experience and worked. Believe me, if these things work in the US, in other places, they should work in Nigeria. So the question is this, now you are having somebody like that, right? Why must he fail? Was he brought in to fill in a political interest? And even if he was brought in, is he willing to yield or tilt and rubbish or poto his entire credibility? That's the question. Some of these Nigerians, I'm telling you, to be fair to Nigerians are great. But sometimes you don't know. We once had this guy also. I know I wouldn't be going into the oil and gas industry. We had somebody called Emmanuel Eboga. That man single-handedly did so much for Petronas in Malaysia. That man was in this Libya you are hearing for. That man worked for Gaddafi and helped. But when the man was in Nigeria, nothing was heard about him. So somehow, somewhere...
Why did that happen?
That's the question now also. What is wrong with the Nigerian technocrats? Does it mean once they just get there, they get melted or they just get swallowed? I don't know. And I may never know. I probably will never know.
Okay, we have to wrap up. Yeah,
okay. Right now, a number of those ministries have no ministers. And the impression given is that the president is not in a hurry to actually fill those posts. Don't you think there'll be a vacuum?
Leaders will always want to be led. Followers will always want to be led. And if you have ministries and there are no people to lead them, definitely, people will just be in disarray.
Well, the palm secs are there.
Well, the palm secs have always been known to be people that, are career people. But you see, when you come in as a political appointee with the proven credentials, you are going there to inject new blood or introduce changes. You fill up all the lacunas that are there in national interest. And when you do that, I'm telling you, people will follow. It's very clear. Once you are on the right track, initially there will be bitings here and there, but at the end of the day, people will synchronize and will be in tandem with you as a visionary and focused leader.
Okay, we've got to close now. Your final word, what will be your recommendation going forward? We know the president has decided that Ministry of Defense, they should have the Minister of Information as the supervising minister. They've got Ministry of Education, the Minister of State supervising that ministry. Ministry of Planning, National Planning, the Minister of State for Works. I can go on and on and on and on. He's appointed people to take care of those ministries in the interim. But for the next 2 years, before we get to 2015, when we will see either a change or a continuation of policy, what would you be saying to the president now that if you're going to appoint, this is what you should consider? Political people or technocrats or
Political
what?
people should be out of it in the first place. But the only thing is, coincidentally, a political person also may end up being the right person. That is acceptable. But to be honest, between now and 2015, maybe May 2015 or whatever, we have probably close to 18 months or probably more than 15 months. That time is enough for us to have functional refineries. That time is enough for us to have good rails that at least will help in the hauling of heavy goods. That time is enough for us to start cleansing our educational institutions and earn our respect in the Committee of Nations. That time is enough for us to also make people feel that at least the kind of mortality rates people are experiencing in Nigeria can be reviewed and changed. 20 months is enough. I remember somebody who once said, a political leader in Nigeria once said, if he is only given 24 hours, he will introduce so many things that will change Nigeria. So that time is more than enough.
Okay. All right.
It's left to the president, but the president or the leaders will be remembered again for just two things: the problems they created for Nigerians or the problems they solved for Nigerians.
Okay.
We have been chatting with Mr. Bala Zaka, who is a public affairs analyst, and we've been looking at the cabinet shake-up. Thank you very much for coming, Mr. Zaka.
Thank you.
Sunrise will return in just a moment with yet another interesting topic, and we hope our guests all turn up in spite of the traffic out there on the expressway.